Okay, welcome everyone. My guests today are two of the three co-founders of multi-award winning peer-to-peer debt platform Crowdproperty, founded originally in 2013. In 2017, Crowdproperty became directly authorized by the Financial Conduct Authority as FCA authorization came into the sector. In 2019, they were 180% oversubscribed on their target equity raise through equity crowdfunding platform Seeders. In 2020, they passed £100 million lent through their platform and have now lent over £120 million to SME property developers throughout the UK. Now in its seventh year of lending, Crowdproperty has a 100% capital and interest payback track record, already returning £65 million to investors, and is the UK's leading specialist property project lending platform. Andrew Hall qualified as a chartered surveyor in 1988 and has over 35 years of experience in the UK commercial and residential property sector. He started off as an industrial and development agency surveyor before moving into development with Severn Trent Property and Horton's Estate. He then started his own family development business and has personally developed millions of square feet of commercial and residential property. Andrew is property director at Crowdproperty and leads the 12-strong property team in the business. Mike has spent 18 years in strategy consulting, advising major corporates on strategic growth and private equity funds on M&A and strategy for their portfolio businesses. His entrepreneurial nature started at university when he founded, grew, and sold a student-facing entertainment business and continued into property investing since 2002, growing a large portfolio. He also invests in early-stage property technology, PropTech businesses, both directly and as an investor, mentor, and voting member of the investment committee of the renowned Pi Labs Venture Capital Fund. Mike is CEO at Crowdproperty, which has a total of 41 employees. Various developer borrowers have described Crowdproperty as a property finance by property people. I've been looking forward to having them on the show to dig deep into how they do what they do, and which has led to them being the industry leader in peer-to-peer lending. So welcome to the show, Mike and Andrew.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tariq. Good to see you.
We've got a lot to get through this, so let's dive straight in. I'd like to start with the kind of why question. You know, most businesses are started to solve a problem. What was the problem that you guys were trying to solve when you started Crowdproperty?
We'll try. I'm sure we'll throw in our own perspectives for many of your questions, but I'll start off on that one. Look, between the founders, we've got 75 years of investing and development experience in property, and that gave us incredible insights. And there's no better place to start a business than where there's a real pain in the market, number one, and number two, where you've faced it. Because you know how to solve it. And that's very much why we got together and said, isn't it difficult, challenging, etc., getting funding for our property projects? We were slap bang in the middle of the definition of SME property developers. And getting funding for those projects was complex, time-consuming, painful, just not effective and not fit for market at all. And that was seriously compromising house building and actually spending the economy as well. So we set about with a pretty big challenge to say, right, let's disrupt property development lending. So let's take out the banks, let's take out the non-bank lenders, let's take out the challenger banks, okay, and build a better lender for SME developers, because there was real pain in the market, and we felt that ourselves.
Yeah, we've evolved basically over the period since 2013, when Mike, Simon, and I were whinging about how awful it was to find debt funding for developments. And at the time, we were doing our own individual schemes, and my particular development took 9 months for the bank to agree to lending me the money, because they couldn't get their head around the fact that I wanted a development loan on an unencumbered property that I had purchased some 3 or 4 months earlier, which was effectively equity of mine, my hurt money, and I now needed a bit of a leg up to deliver to deliver what was effectively the development of 4 properties. But we sat around the kitchen table basically and said, how can we sort this out? And Simon and Mike, who are a bit more creative than I am, but basically hatched a plan, which took a year to bring to the market, but was something that they sort of took me along with them on, because they needed somebody who understood the property industry and its intricacies to be effectively the chief underwriter. And we were able then, we had to build the platform, obviously. We had to work out the risk profiles. We had to sort out how it was going to, the day-to-day processes were going to work. And we had lots of conversations and lots of whiteboards in front of us, right? How do we get from A to B and to C, etc. And you know, over the year, it was thinking, well, there was the setbacks, and then there was things that did work, and then there was things that definitely didn't work. But come September 2014, we were able to launch our first deal, and the rest has gone on from there. There've been certain milestones we've hit on the way. Getting the FCA license was a massive step forward. Reaching 10 million of aggregate lending was another massive step forward. Mike coming on full time as chief exec was another chief milestone that actually didn't happen till Q1 2018. Building the board, building the processes, getting the governance sorted out, getting the FCA up here for a day, and they loved us. They actually left the early train, which we were very pleased about. But going back to the early days, it was, well, hang on a moment, are we going to be a debt lender or an equity lender? There was a lot of conversations around that, and we plumped for the debt side, predominantly because we knew that the FCA found that the least risky profile, and secondly, it was, well, if we do it like that, we can just take the models from all the other debt lenders and try and work with those models and see which bits work and which don't. So it helped us in formulating our plan. And the secured lending element was obviously first charge security was easily the most risk averse form of lending in the market. And we just picked that up and ran with it.
I think just to finish up on this point, we look at things very differently. People are setting up platforms left, right, and centre. They're wiring up some tech and saying, right, I've got a lending platform, I've got a crowdfunding platform, or whatever. Okay, it's total nonsense, right? You've got to start with absolute depth of asset class expertise, right? Because you're a lender or you're an investor if it's equity sized, right? You've got to have the best asset class expertise in the market to outperform it, okay? Because at the end of the day, money is going out the door and you're only a lender if you get that back, right? So you've got to really understand that. You've got to build your business on that depth of expertise. And secondly, we built it to be the best SME lender in the market, and based on our own experiences of that, and we can truly say we've built that, and that's driving our growth. Now, obviously, if you go about setting up a lender, you need to find capital from somewhere, and we initially deployed the peer-to-peer lending model, and that's still predominantly our model. But as the proof, I'm sure we'll come on to some of the statistics later. It's really important to understand the statistics of any platform. That track record has attracted a lot of institutional capital, and that institutional capital is able, because they're putting millions behind or through the platform. They do months and months and months of due diligence. The only lender on the platform that's done more due diligence than the institutions. It's my mother who's due diligence me for 44 years. So, that is a sign of absolute quality as well, validation of track record, etc. But we'll talk about some of the key factors, but that's the key thing, right? We've built the best SME property development lender in the market.
Interesting. I want to just pick up a couple of things that, Andrew, you mentioned about essentially, it was around the kitchen table and then you're going to a whiteboard and essentially creating this thing from scratch. Back in 2013, 2014, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there were these platforms that you can build another platform on. A lot of the crowdfunding platforms out there, peer-to-peer debt platforms, are pretty much piggybacking on existing platforms, and then they just give you the keys to sort of tweak the way the website works, but the background technology is already pre-built, and you're just piggybacking on that. Is that understanding right?
I'm going to just pick up on this for a second before Andrew can, because Andrew will talk about the depth of property requirement under that. White labeling platforms is nonsense. It's not fit for purpose. It's not fit for the asset class you're working on, right? We have entirely built our platform from scratch, okay, in-house, so no contracted out, in our office here in Birmingham, so not overseas. Okay, so we have absolute control of every single proposition development, every single technology development that we put through our platform is exactly to enhance the workflow of this business, the functionality, service, expertise, etc. for our customers, and the rigor of the overall system, and that is critically important. You don't see Funding Circle or Zopa or someone like that piggybacking off white label software, right? It's because technology is a key advantage that you need to build to deliver that advantage into the market. And then, Andrew will see that from the property side, but all the workflows that underpin his team's activity, all of that is technology enabled to feed expert human brains better.
You see, the way I look at it is that, and this is something that I think Mike took a little while to get his head around, because he wanted to build this tech platform, which would effectively mean we never had to speak to a borrower in our life. And when he announced that in a team meeting in about 2013, I raised my hand and said, "I'm terribly sorry, Mike, but property industry is a people's business. It has always been a people's business, and it always will be a business. And you can build as much tech as you like, but you cannot algorithm a property deal, because it takes the human experienced person to check it and to look at the uniqueness of that particular project. And each project is unique. And you cannot build, therefore you cannot build this algorithm to spurt out the other side of it, what you can or cannot lend on that particular project. And one of the analogies I always say is that you could have the best project in the world, which makes a massive amount of profit for everybody, but you could have the worst borrower trying to drive it forward. And that's where the people side of it comes in. And I've built my side of the team around property expertise. I've now got 12 people working for me, with more arriving this year, and of all different experiences. I've got charter surveyors, I've got graduate surveyors, I've got people that have built their own buildings but are not necessarily surveyors but have understanding of how the process works. I've got guys at the front end who are chatting away to borrowers, but the main thing is we're talking their language. Because we're talking their language, within a matter of a few minutes, the borrower gets comfortable with us, because we're actually asking him questions that he's probably already asked himself and got answers to. But also, as one of my borrowers said to me the other day, "You're watching our back, Andrew, because you have introduced other things into this deal which we wouldn't have known necessarily have thought about. And I've got my team, all my team who look after different cases, they're all doing that, and they're bouncing it off. Any questions that they're maybe not sure of, they're bouncing off me. I've got a couple of other guys who are 20 plus years chartered surveyors in the office, so they can turn to those people as well. And generally speaking, I look at each project and I think, one, would I do that deal myself? And two, what do I need to find within that project or within the process where we need to mitigate the risk? And I've got lots of case examples where I've turned around to a borrower and said, we can't do this deal yet for X, Y, and Z reasons. He's moaned and been a bit miffed with us and all the rest of it, but slept on it and then worked out, actually, do you know something? He's right, and we can't do that deal yet. So he goes back to the vendor, renegotiates a bit more time or whatever's required, so that he can go off and get that particular report that we've asked him to sort out.
And it's no secret that since global financial crisis, the banks, challenger banks, etc., have shown far less interest in supporting SME developers, and that plays out in all the house building numbers, and that's problematic for the economy, because we need more homes, number one, and each home drives incredible spend in the economy on labour, materials, and services. But the issue has been that financial services is not famed for being customer focused, customer centric, okay, and that is accentuated for funding SME developers. And so every step of the way, we've built what we wanted as developers. We've validated that with customer research. A hell of a lot of our time goes into customer research, okay, and then built value on top of that as property financed by property people. This is a totally different perspective of development lending, and there's no other example where we are a true partner to developers. We sit on their power team as a partner throughout the project. Value throughout, whether it's deal structuring right through to cracking problems on site, because hey, it's a project, there will always be stuff that goes wrong, which is how severe that is and how you mitigate that, and then exiting the project. And so by having the heart of our business as property people, that is it's a game changer, and we've been told that this is a game changing product.
You've mentioned there, but you've also publicly written on your websites and other places that you're keen to encourage prospective borrowers to approach you earlier in the process, not just after the deal's kind of done with the vendor, offer's been accepted, and they're going through conveyancing or legals and what have you, but actually get in touch much earlier in the process. And I wanted to kind of pick up on that a little bit, even when they're kind of considering a site and running preliminary numbers on the site itself. Now, naturally, this could potentially mean that you're spending quite a lot of time on prospective deals, which may not actually turn into an opportunity. You kind of touched on it, but can you elaborate a little bit more? Because it seems to me that it's better to sort of be like, okay, here's an opportunity, it's been crystallized, offer's been accepted, there's a deal to be had, and so we'll only focus on those rather than also spend some energy and time on a deal that might be still very early stages. What's your thought process through that?
Just to give you some numbers, because Andrew have brilliant examples of how this is added value for developers. It's not just about us providing the finance, but we've seen £5 billion of applications now directed to Crowdproperty. We look at that all very, very carefully, very, very efficiently, because the technology that we have, that we built ourselves, that sits behind every application. So we're able to give illustrative terms, feedback, understand their vision, etc., within 24 hours. But that piece of getting in touch early, it helps us not only give a developer confidence that there's a deal there and to invest time, but also feedback that says, actually, do you know what? We wouldn't back this. And we question whether that's the best use of your time. You found one deal, you'll find another. Again, this is what we wanted. We wanted expert pairs of eyes looking over our projects and guiding us as to whether we should say no within the first few hours of us finding it, literally. So, I mean, Andrew will give you some great examples of this.
We ask people to come to us early, and a lot of people do come to us early as they're formulating their view on our project, predominantly because it's a sense check, second pair of eyes over it, and it may well be that the guy doesn't quite know how to structure the deal. So he's there 75% of the way, and yes, it's a cracking deal, but he hasn't quite worked out whether it should be conditional or it should be he should be talking to them about a particular aspect of the deal, or indeed how the structuring company should look, or the purchasing company should look, and we're able to sort of guide them on that, and we do get. I mean, we had a situation 2 years ago where the guy had agreed an option period of about 18 months to purchase this property, and he had to go and get planning, he had to sort out some structural and technical issues, and he came to us on the day after the option agreement had been signed, because we were able to peer into that deal and say, oh, don't forget that, you've got that covered, actually I haven't got that covered, good thinking, and we could work through with them so that when they did have to trigger the option, which is what they did, well, we were effectively there on the day, the day of having to complete the purchase. And on that particular occasion, it was 28 days after triggering. But we'd spent the previous year with them, working through it all and getting our ducks lined up, so that when we did have to to put it on the platform and do the last little bits of the process, it was fine, because there was no last minute panics. And that worked really well with us. We had another one where he had a particular technical issue to sort out. This was last year, and it took him 6 months to sort it out. And he wasn't very happy with us initially, but we turned around and said, well, one, your site isn't deliverable till this occurs, and two, if we put you on a bridge now, you'd have spent 6 months being charged all this interest, etc., and you'd still need to go and sort this little issue out. And actually, he came back to us 6 months later and said, you were right, and I hadn't appreciated this part of the process was going to take such a long time. But he was able to present to us a site that was deliverable, and he was also able to negotiate an extension to the purchase of the site, so it saved him a load of money.
The first one there is a great example. I think that's been our longest, from application through to funding. That was our longest ever, which is 17 months.
Yeah.
Now, it's not because we took 17 months, right? It was because they came early. We worked through that entire complex process with them before we did anything formally with them in terms of lending. And we're very comfortable with that, because we see a good project and we'll get back good people doing good projects. People coming to us early, the sort of the extreme on that was someone phoned us the day after he'd been to an auction and said, I've just bought 2 HMOs at an auction. I've got 27 days to complete. Can you help? Now, we funded that in 6 days. And why did we fund that in 6 days? Okay, there's a legal pack at an auction, right? So we can move quicker, because it's always the third parties that are on the critical path. We're always quicker than that. But we're property people. We didn't say, right, we've got 27 days to complete on that. We said, well, let's work to 10 days. So it gives us all wiggle room, because property deals move around and there's always things that come up. And nobody needs more stress in their lives. So that one, well, we smashed our own 10-day false deadline. So it's about moving at the appropriate speed, but we are. The crucial thing is that all our tech systems, processes, and brilliant property brains in the business mean that we are never the critical path on closing finance.
It's important for borrowers to know that they have got a lender who can assist them, knowing that we can deliver on the funds, so they've got the confidence when they go and make an offer. Okay, and we're there to assist. We're not the horrible people in their ivory tower. We're basically there to say, this is a good deal. We can lend you this amount of money. Now go and make your offer. Good luck, and ring us back when you get the contract. Okay.
That example you gave of where it was a 17 months to the point where it was funded. In the end, how long, when that deal went live on the platform, how long did it take for it to get fully funded?
So in terms of the lender backing that project, that was done in 2018. Yeah, they came in early 2018, and it took a few hours. Okay, but our loans now are going on our platform, and they're all going out quicker than it would be to buy a ticket for an Oasis concert.
And that's one of the things, right? The funding speed on the platform is one metric, but the crucial thing that matters for the developer is the overall end-to-end process, and that's what we work incredibly efficiently at delivering on. But it is easy to put metrics on the platform stuff, and almost every single project in the last 12 months has been under a minute in terms of funding. And why is that the case? Because we have an exceptional track record in our 7th year of lending, 100% capital and interest payback track record. A lot of lenders on our platform, high net worth, institutional lenders. And look, it's popular, but you only build that popularity and trust through proving and delivering. And this is why the statistics and the performance, which you can very tangibly say, as you mentioned at the start, 120 million lent, but also very importantly, 65 million paid back. And that's where, you're only a lender if you get the money back. And that's the absolute critical piece.
But as a lender who is keen to get involved in a particular deal, if deals are getting funded in under a minute from when they go live on the platform, I appreciate there's advance notice to a certain extent, but isn't there a risk that as a lender I'm missing out on an opportunity because it funds so quickly?
Massive issue. So look, I mean, very importantly, obviously, if full information is published 24 hours before launch. And the reason we restrict it to 24 hours is because we're funding 3, 4, 5, 6 projects a week. So actually, you need to time cap that to some extent, and lenders do really detailed due diligence on that information, ask us further questions, etc. in that time frame. And we track all the traffic stats associated with that, and we have very strong comfort that they are doing good due diligence on it. But our biggest complaint is that lenders can't get funds in at the moment, and we have 6 different methods of funding. So we have what's called self-select, where someone comes in, they'll look at the project and they'll say, right, I like this project, so I want to be part of that project. So that's self-select. And we have that across standard accounts, ISA accounts, and pension accounts. And then we have auto-invest, which is an algorithm that will pick up various settings that is actually incredibly complex when you run all edge cases on the auto-invest algorithm. It's a brilliant piece of code. And that also is across standard ISA and pension accounts. And you're right, it's very difficult to cater for every single person's need, because we've had to introduce pledge limits to enable more people to get in. But you've got about, at the moment it's about between 1,300 and 1,500 people in each project. So that's a lot of clearly tech processing, but also it's a lot of activity on the website. We get extreme peaks on our server demand. But what that crucially delivers, okay, because that's happening 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week, investors are getting incredible diversification. And diversification is so fundamentally important in investment. So, and we track diversification stats at board level, and because that fundamental principle is important, and us encouraging that is good, because if something was to go wrong, because capital is at risk through any peer-to-peer lending platform, then the impact on an individual's portfolio is minimized. And that is great for the investors, and it's great for the platform as well.